giving keynote addresses. It was quite stimulating on dealing with the issues of life comes from life and evolution. This will likely turn into a book. A major publisher, Springer, is actually interested in this as a book. We're having discussions already. And of course, we'll release a edited video version. It's too long to release a full version, but we'll edit it down and release a video version of it. So I just wanted to share the news with all of you. Today, I'm to speak on 3.5.42, if I remember. I think that's correct.
Yes.
I'm looking at my other screen. I have the verses pulled up. So you see me looking away. I'm not ignoring you, but I have two screens so I can look at it. Let me pull that one. I lost that verse. I'm going to pull it back up again. Okay, so I am honored to be here with all of you. As I say, I offer my special respects. Om Gyana Tyanasai Gyana Gyana Chakshumi Ye Tajmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Before I begin,
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, we thank you all. And as you might already be aware, today we are very much blessed. Our Sangha is graced by His Grace BRAHMA-TIRTHA PRABHU, who is been graciously been with us quite a number of times, sharing his love and wisdom with us. And Prabhuji, we humbly but honestly wish you a happy Krishna conscious New Year, since this is our first time meeting in the new year of 2025.
And I wish you a happy pagan New Year also.
Jai Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. We may put the verse on the screen and then you take it over from here, Prabhuji. And the Sangha, the meeting you were talking about, if possible, you may share a copy of the recording with us, and we would like to listen to it and enjoy it, because this concept of evolution is very interesting topic.
It'll take a month before we edit it, but I will. It's too long and there are many interruptions, so we want to make it concise so people will actually listen.
All right.
But we'll do that. But before I begin, I want to give you a riddle. Now, I've used this riddle before, so if you heard me use it, you cannot answer the riddle. But a riddle at the beginning of a class gets people thinking. So I'll give you a riddle. It's an easy, difficult riddle. I just visited the largest deity in the world. Where was I? Now, if you've heard me discuss this, you cannot say. But if you haven't, anyone can go give a guess. I visited the largest deity in the world. It was very wonderful. I had a transcendental experience. Where was I?
Well, somebody has his hand up. Salika Prabhu, you may unmute.
Yeah, I just want to speculatively try. My mind.
Where?
My mind.
My mind? No, that's not. That is my deity. I worship it daily, but no. But that was a good one. I like that. That was very good. I visited the largest deity in the world. Where do you think I was?
Interesting. I'd like to know.
Mayapur.
Yes. Mayapur. Which deity?
Panchatattva.
No, I was quite far from Mayapur. Quite far. Larger, much larger. You know the story of Dr. Frog? Dr. Frog, this big PhD frog, went to the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, a young frog went to the ocean, and he came back to see the chief frog, Dr. Frog, the Professor Frog. Here, I'll put on my Professor will give you my Professor Frog outfit here, Professor Frog. So, so he went to see Professor Frog, and he said, and Professor Frog lived in a well. And so he said this is a story Prabhupada tells. So the young frog said, I just came from the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and it's so big. And Professor Frog says, is it as big as my well? No, much bigger. Is it twice as big as my well? And Professor Frog starts puffing himself up. Is it 3 times bigger than my well? He said, no, much bigger. 5 times bigger than my well. And he puffs himself up till he blows up, because he could not conceive of how big the ocean is, because all he knew was his well. That's a story Prabhupada tells. So sometimes, and the analogy is sometimes we can't understand the spiritual world when we're wearing our myopic glasses. So that's a good hint. So the deity I saw was much bigger. Where was I? But don't feel bad. I gave this riddle to 60 senior Bhakti Shastri students, and it took them 10 minutes to solve it. And these are senior Bhakti Shastri students. So any guess? Where was I? It's a trick question, obviously, but a lot of fun. Where was I? And tell me, take a guess.
I'll say Govindatai in a New Vrindavan.
They're pretty big, but that's Dr. Frog kind. They're much bigger, many times bigger. Any guess? I went there for a retreat, and I sat there meditating, and there were parrots over my head, and antelope, and peacocks, and monkeys, and I really had a transcendental experience. I'm giving some hints now. And I was sitting at the feet of the largest deity in the world. It's a real deity, but
Vrindavan?
It's gigantic. Where?
Vrindavan?
Close, but not quite. Very warm. You're getting warm.
I'll say the Himalayas.
No, you're getting close in one way, but farther in another. Ooh, I'm gonna get your brains all engaged. Okay. Tell you where I was. Are you ready?
Yes.
Govardhan Hill.
Oh,
like the Himalayas, it's a mountain near Vrindavan. It's a lot. And when I went there, I'm a geologist. I sat there looking at this metamorphic quartzite, which is the kind of rock it's made of. And so I'm looking at a metamorphic quartzite and thinking, what a fascinating metamorphic quartzite. And I'm noticing the rocks and the kind of quartzite and what it's made of. And by the end of the week, I said, no, this is Giri Govardhan. This is a deity. And I have a relationship with the deity. And by the mercy of Borajan and Satchidananda Swami, it worked. So now we've had our riddle. So now we got everyone's frontal cortex thinking big time. So now we're ready for a class. So let us get a verse. This is a very important chapter we're talking about. The chapter is Vidura is talking to Maitreya, and they get into deep discussions. And one important context, Vidura was actually considered a Sudra due to the mother he had. But in that society, he's the one giving great instructions. And one of the lessons Prabhupada teaches, doesn't make a difference what your birth is. What matters is who you are. And that's one of the big lessons here. We have a lot of issues in this world with birth. In India, we have the caste system. In Africa, we had apartheid. It was so, I remember being in marches protesting apartheid when I was in college, because there, if you were born in a certain body, you had this privilege, and if you're born in another body, you don't. It's the same issue. It all begins in the Bhagavatam. The whole Bhagavatam begins when the son of a Brahmin curses Parikshit, and he thinks he's a Brahmin, but he's not. He's a son of a Brahmin. And just because you're a son, you could still be an idiot. It doesn't make you a Brahmin. And so this idea of this bodily identification, I'm black, I'm white, I'm Indian, I'm American. Now America has become very concerned with, who can enter the country. Very concerned. It's a country of immigrants. I say, yes, we should send everyone home. Leave America for the American Indians. We ruined the country anyway. But I mean, obviously, every country needs border controls. I'm not advocating that every country in the world have open borders. That would be silly. But we can't be prejudiced against particular bodies. And that is the essence of what's going on in this chapter, that somebody with what's a lower birth body is actually giving the most brilliant of instructions. So now we're going to verse 42, which is on the share screen and on my screen. And this gets, and here the instruction, I am just gonna, because time is of the essence. I only have 50 minutes for this class. I apologize, but just jammed with things going on with the Institute. Simply by hearing about your lotus feet with eagerness and devotion, and by meditating upon them within the heart, one at once becomes enlightened with knowledge, and on the strength of detachment, one becomes pacified. We must therefore take shelter of the sanctuary of your lotus feet. Now, this is one of the more powerful verses in the whole Bhagavatam. Simply by hearing about your lotus feet, such as reading Krishna book, and by meditating upon them, the deities, within the heart, doing, that's japa meditation. One becomes enlightened with knowledge, and on the strength of detachment, which will be discussed in detail in the purport, one becomes pacified. We must take shelter of the sanctuary of your lotus feet. What does pacified mean? Well, any of you who read the newspaper will be very unpacified now. The world is a mess. There's huge fires in California. I live in Florida, and everything's frozen here. It snowed in northern Florida. I mean, it's weird things. Climates are going there. People get it. There's wars going on. Ukraine, Sudan, the Mideast, every place. In the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam, which is the only canto in the future tense, every other canto is present or past tense, talks about what the symptoms of Kali Yuga would look like. I actually produced the books for the BBT. I was the production line manager. So as a manuscript came out for the 12th canto, I was reading it just as as my typesetter was putting it in, and I snickered, talking about what Kali Yuga would look like. I said, well, I won't see that in my lifetime. Boy, was I wrong. Got that one wrong. So, because one thing it said, the countries will be led by robber barons, people who take power just to get money. And we see that all over the world. All over the world, we see such things going on in ways that have always been going on. It's just there's more of it now, a lot more of it. And so how do we become pacified in this tumultuous world? We become pacified by hearing about Krishna. And we hear about Krishna. One of the first books that Prabhupada produced, thanks to a donation from George Harrison, was the Krishna book. That's weird. I'll tell you why it's weird. It says in the Bhagavatam, you shouldn't really read the Krishna book till you've done the other 9 cantos. That's the 10th canto. But Prabhupada produced it very early on. I had a copy of Krishna book before I even had a copy of Prabhupada's Gita. And why would that be? It seems like Prabhupada's defying the instructions. I'll answer that one. because Prabhupada incorporated in the Krishna book in a brilliant, subtle way all the teachings of the first 9 cantos. Because if you read Krishna's pastimes with the gopis and you think it's ordinary sexual affairs, you become very contaminated, very, very contaminated. So you first have to work your way up. And then you go first canto, you go creation stories and other stories, second, third. Then you get to the 5th canto. The 5th canto is a speed bump. You all know speed bump. You're going down the road and they want you to slow down. So they put a bump in the road. So you can only go 15 miles an hour to slow down. Maybe there's a school or residential neighborhood. So the 5th canto is a speed bump, force you to slow down and think. A lot of the time of what we do at the Bhaktivedanta Institute is concerned with the 5th canto. It's the speed bump. And then you get up to speed again, and 6th, 7th, the 9th canto gets kind of heavy about certain topics, about relationships of men and women. It gets really kind of wake you up a little bit. Then by then you're purified enough to get in the 10th canto. And what does Prabhupada do? Goes right to the 10th canto and incorporates all the essence of it in some brilliant, inconceivable way. So if you start with Krishna book, you don't become an offender. You become, as it says here, enlightened with knowledge. And then you want to do detachment. So I asked Prabhupada, how can I get knowledge? I asked him that question. And he says, and I want to know which comes first, knowledge or detachment. So let's take a vote. Who thinks we can even do a poll? We can, I don't know if we have a poll capability in here or not. I don't think that's turned on. But you can raise your hand, if your virtual hand. Who thinks detachment comes before knowledge? Raise your hand. Who thinks knowledge comes before detachment? Who's not thinking? I don't see anybody raising any hands. Somebody, okay, we'll try again. Who thinks detachment comes before knowledge? There's no wrong answer, by the way. Anybody?
I think they work hand in hand.
You know, Gail always has good comments when she attends my class. I like when Gail attends. Yeah. You're good, Gail. Okay, that's one answer. Give me another answer.
I say knowledge comes before detachment.
Okay, give me another answer. Anybody else? One more. I need one more. Madhavan, give me an answer.
Knowledge comes before renunciation.
Okay, well, all the answers are correct, by the way. Some people, we say different slopes for different folks. So some people will cultivate detachment and then study. For me, Prabhupada told me, because I'm kind of a thinking, I think too much. So Prabhupada told me, for you, you have to get knowledge and then you'll get detachment. First you understand, then you'll get detachment. That's what Prabhupada said to me. But all the answers are correct. Another one of my trick questions. Sorry about that. I can't help it. Want to get people thinking. So we'll go to the purport. The miracles of meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord with eagerness and devotion are so great that no other process compared to it. What is no other process? Any of the yoga processes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, you may do your yoga exercises, you worship your deities, you do different things, but meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord with eagerness and devotion is the best thing. Now, of course, there are many ways to do that. Again, some people do that by just being a pujari and dressing the deities and looking at the Lord's feet. When I first came back from India and I visited the temple in Brooklyn, one senior devotee, seeing the deity is very beautiful, Radha Govinda. I said, well, how do I relate to Radha Govinda? Because I was brought up Jewish family and you have no idols before you. So there was something inside me opposed to deity worship, but I love the deities. So I said, well, I'm a little conflicted. What do I do? So this senior devotee, she said to me, here's what you do. And I followed this advice ever since. She said, start at the deity's feet. Don't go to the face. Just start at the feet and meditate on the deity's feet the best you can. And think about it. And then slowly, as you're chanting and meditating, you'll work your way up and the deity will start talking to you. My God, she was right. I never thought that could happen to me. So we start at the deity's feet, and that's why it's mentioned here. And we say lotus feet. By lotus feet, we're not saying the deity has lotus flowers growing out of their feet, but we meant that a lotus is beautiful. So these are beautiful feet. The minds of a materialistic person are so disturbed that's almost impossible in the search after the supreme truth by personal regulative endeavors. In other words, by our own endeavor, we won't find Krishna. It's the minds are so disturbed. Even Arjuna said to Krishna, how can one control the mind? It's easier to control the wind. In California, you have these 120-mile-an-hour Santa Ana winds, and it created huge fires, burned down a wealthy neighborhood full of Hollywood actors, 12,000 houses destroyed. Our own Nishringananda, who made all the movies, his house is located very nearby. Somehow his house was spared, but everything else totally destroyed. You can't control the wind. But Krishna says with determination, you can control the mind. So Arjuna was also bewildered. He's a great person. Imagine the rest of us here. We're not Arjuna. I'm not Arjuna. But it is possible. So Prabhupada uses very careful words. He says, almost impossible. But what makes it possible is meditating on the lotus feet. But even such materialistic men or women with a little eagerness for hearing about the Lord, whose name, fame, qualities can surpass all other methods, attaining both knowledge and detachment. Now, the conditioned soul is attached to the bodily concept of the self, and therefore he or she is in ignorance. Any of you totally detached from your body? You can leave class now. You have nothing to learn. Okay. But for the rest of us, we're naturally attached. What can we say? I mean, every time I go to the pharmacy, I'm asking for medicine to make me better. I never went to the pharmacy and said, give me something. Yeah, I don't like this body. Give me something to make me sicker. Only crazy people do that. So the conditioned soul is attached to the bodily concept. Culture of self-knowledge can bring about detachment from material affection, and without such detachment, there's no meaning to knowledge. Now, the most stubborn attachment is sex life. Well, now, Prabhupada is not, and I'm going to emphasize this, saying sex life is evil. In fact, Krishna says, I am sex life according to regulative principles. What he's saying is attachment to sex life is the problem. If nobody would agree to sex life, the Shakers did that. The Shakers were a community in Ohio, and they decided we should all be celibate our whole life. They're famous for making beautiful furniture. And so they set up a community, we'll all be celibate. They had no children. Then the community disappeared. It wasn't sustainability. And Varnashram has some allowance for sex life, but it's regulated. And therefore, we slowly become detached from it. But so one who is attached to sex life, again, it's not saying that sex life is evil. Krishna doesn't say that. He says the opposite. He says, I am sex life according to religious principle. But one who's attached to sex life is obviously devoid of knowledge. Knowledge must be followed by detachment. So, and this is what Prabhupada said to me. You get knowledge. He said to me, you have a good brain, so try to get knowledge, then you'll get your detachment. Don't artificially try to detach too soon. Because I was trying to, but it wasn't working. That is the way of self-realization for most of us. There are two elements for self-realization: knowledge and detachment. And they become manifest very quickly if one performs devotional service, lotus feet of the Lord. That's why I went to Govardhan Hill. Just like anybody here have a Tesla or an electric car? Anybody? Raise your hand. Nobody here has an electric car. So you have an electric car, you all know. You have to take it to the charging station every day, plug it in and charge it. So for me, going to a retreat at Govardhan Hill is me taking this body and plugging it into the charging station and getting a recharge of spirituality. Because, you know, running an institute, I'm always doing one thing. Managing intellectuals, which is like herding cats. And because each have their own opinion, which is what Brahmins are supposed to do. And the second thing to do is always trying to beg for money and raise money because we're always short of money. So I'm thinking of money, I'm thinking of people all day. And sometimes I forget Krishna. So then, as Prabhupada instructed, I go and plug my Tesla in, and I plug it in, and I get a good recharge. It really works. Then I got my batteries charged for another year. Then I go back and plug in again and just get a recharge. So this is the way of self-realization. Two essentials, knowledge and detachment, become manifest if one performs service to the lotus feet of the Lord. The word dhira is very significant in this connection. Dhira means not disturbed. So a person who is not disturbed, even in the presence of the cause of disturbance, is called dhira. Sri Yamuna Acharya, I'll give an example. There was once a plane flying. Devotee was on a plane that took off from Miami, going to South America. This was Narahari, was a devotee, and he's sitting on the plane, and the engine caught fire. Has anybody here been on a plane that had to be diverted due to a major issue? Anybody? I have. My plane was hijacked. So anyway, that's a whole nice adventure story we can tell sometime. And in this case, the engine caught fire. Now, when an engine catches fire, it actually doesn't cause the plane to blow up. A plane can fly with an engine on fire, the way things work. And I won't go into the technical details, but for all the passengers on the plane, they were terrified. And the plane had just took off and it was too heavy to land. So they had to fly over the ocean for an hour and dump fuel. And they're dumping fuel while the wing is on fire. So the people, it's not as dangerous as you would think. I mean, it's scary. But the people on the plane all thought they were going to die. They were writing their last wills and testaments. They were writing love notes to their spouses, final instructions to their children, because they were sure they were going to die. And one person was just sitting there chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I was just sitting there chanting, not fearful. Just, okay, Krishna, whatever you like. And when the plane landed safely, fire department snuffed out the fire quickly. Plane was able to even taxi to the gate and unload everyone. It just, and the reporters were there because the plane had been circling for 1 or 2 hours to dump fuel and line up to land and clear other planes from the area in case it blew up, etc. And so all the press was there by the gate. And so they're interviewing the passengers. What was it like? We were terrified. I sang goodbye, sang my prayers, blah, blah, blah. Wish I hadn't been an atheist my whole life. I needed God now. Whatever they were saying, all kinds of things like this. But many of them commented, but one passenger wasn't disturbed. All he did was sit and meditate. And they interviewed him. And they said, "What's with you?" He said, "If it's my time to go, I'll die. It's my time to live. No one can kill me," and quoted that famous verse. And he says, so Krishna is with me. And it was my time to go. I'm not going to fight it. It's my time to stay. Nothing's going to take me away. And it made all the newspapers. It was quite a story. I was very impressed by it. So to continue, since my heart has been overwhelmed, Yamunacharya says, by devotional service, I can't even think of sex life. If thoughts of sex come on me, I feel disgust. A devotee becomes an elevated dhira by the process of meditating on the lotus feet. So the point Yamunacharya is making, I was really attached to sex life. Now, I can't even think of it because of the Lord's lotus feet. He became completely detached. Not that all of us can imitate Yamunacharya, but it's our aspiration. And finally, devotional service entails being initiated by a spiritual master. Now, initiation without following instructions doesn't mean initiation. It means a formality. In India, very common, you get a family guru, he gives you a blessing. That's not the guru relationship we're looking at. It means you get initiated. Initiation means, the word initiate means beginning, not end. So it means now I'm going to follow some instructions, take some mentorship. Such a bona fide spiritual master is accepted by regularly hearing from him about the Lord. This improvement in knowledge and detachment can be perceived by devotees as an actual experience. What is the proof of Krishna consciousness? It's our experience. We can do all the theory we want, but if we don't experience it, we're not going to fully understand Krishna. We must experience. I'll tell you a story. So I met Prabhupada in Mayapur. You all know that story. I wasn't a devotee. I was curious about Indian culture. I went to India to be a high school teacher so I could live in the culture and understand the culture that brought us the Gita. But I hadn't at all surrendered. So I met Prabhupada in Mayapur, life-changing. Then after that, I resigned my teaching position because Prabhupada said to me, the key for advancement is good association. That wasn't great association I had. And so I'll go back to America. So I went to Bombay, turned in my papers. And fortunately, I have 3 days to leave the country. It is my contract. But they give me a physical exam and my liver was terribly swollen, some kind of jaundice. I wasn't yellow, but terribly swollen. They said, okay, come back in 2 weeks. So I had a 2-week reprieve and I stayed in 72 at Juhu Beach and we had no facility. If anybody read Giriraj Swami's amazing book about Juhu, about the temple, you know we had nothing. We were living very near the ghetto where Slumdog Millionaire took place, for those who have seen that movie. Very near there, it was on one side there was slum, the other side the fancy Juhu Beach, higher end properties. But in India, you can't evict people. It takes years to get people out of their homes. You have to buy them out. So we had no building, but a little hut for the deities. And we lived on the roof of the buildings in tents. The bathroom, I won't even begin to describe the circumstances. It was quite austere. But when you're 22 years old, it's camping out, so what? And I got for 2 weeks to spend more time with devotees. And I was thinking, now I'm going to observe what they do. I'm going to understand it better. I'm going to be able to see what devotional life is about by observing. That's my thought process. So we get up at 4:30. some Mongol artik on the roof, and then they take out a plant and they start dancing around a plant, going yani kani chapapani. I think this is kind of weird. Who worships a basil plant? Thinking strange things. So I'm sitting watching, trying to figure out what's going on here. And Sarabi Swami comes to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, this is quite interesting. I'm trying to understand it." He says, "You are like the person licking a jar of honey, trying to understand what it tastes like. Unless you open the jar, you'll never know what the honey tastes like. Dance." You think I should dance around a plant? He goes, "You'll never know if you don't try." I said, "Okay, I'm game." So I started dancing around Tulsi, and I had a transcendental mystical experience. It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. So, and I thank him for that. I did thank him for that. So, this means that he gave me some knowledge. From that knowledge, I was able to act. And from that act, I had some mystical understanding. And from that, I developed some detachment where I didn't want to sleep in any morning. Then I really wanted to get up and worship Tulsi for the next 2 weeks. So that's knowledge and some detachment from sleeping. Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu strongly recommends this process of hearing from a bona fide devotee. And by following this process, one can achieve the highest result, conquering all other methods, best method. So that ends this wonderful purport. I'm going to stop here and see if there are any questions, comments, criticisms, something to add, something to subtract. Please say what's on your mind.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for wonderful delivery of Krishna Katha, as you always do. Very engaging. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, realizations, you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to share or ask your questions. Hare Krishna. Well, Prabhuji, like we said, thank you so much. I have a question from the purport. Sri Prabhupada was saying that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu strongly recommended the process of hearing from a bona fide devotee. Now, this may seem simple, but how does one in his nuance to spirituality or being naive to spirituality really understand that this person I'm approaching is a bona fide devotee, and he can give me Krishna consciousness that will help me have knowledge that will lead to detachment to what we hold on so dearly, materially speaking, and they are the cause of our bondage. How does one in his initial stages understand that this particular individual is a bona fide devotee?
Well, you've asked a significant question, because Prabhupada begins the purport. I'm going back to that now. Or ends, devotional service entails being initiated by a bona fide spiritual master. So how do you know who's bona fide? Well, fortunately, Krishna's thought of this problem. And I'll tell a story to put it in context, and this will help. Prabhupada came to America at the end of 65. And he was the first There are other gurus had come, but after Prabhupada came, a lot more came. Prabhupada came at the right time. If he had come a year earlier, America wasn't ready. People were really Vietnam War, civil rights bill had just passed in 1964. Vietnam War was heating up. Draft was there. People were really questioning. And Prabhupada came at the time when at least my generation was really questioning. The perfect time. If he come a year or two later, he would have missed the wave. Krishna sent him the perfect time, almost to the day. After Prabhupada came, other gurus started coming, especially ones who wanted to make money. And the New York Daily News, every week, there was a tabloid paper and there's a centerfold. And once a week in the centerfold, they'd show a picture of a new guru coming from India, sort of mocking them. Because you had one who had 70 Rolls Royces, another would rub your eyeball, and people think they're enlightened because you rub your eyeball, you get a flash of white light, you simulate the optic nerve. There were some came that were decent too. I'm not condemning everyone. There were some who were, I think, well-meaning and decent, but many of them came were, some were pure scam artists. And so the issue came, how do you know who's bona fide and who's not? And I asked that question, how do I know? I once went to an ashram. I was living in Patna, a teaching assignment. And there was one sect there. And they claimed their guru was God. And I hadn't met the devotees in India yet. So I went to visit their place. And they had Americans dressed in traditional Indian dress. And they obviously spoke English. I could relate to them. My Hindi was too weak for philosophical discussions. So I said, tell me about your guru. Oh, our guru's God. And I'd like to meet him. Where is he? Well, he's in jail because he's doing politics. Oh, which jail is he in? Well, he's in the prison hospital. Oh, what's wrong with him? Well, he has bad hemorrhoids. I'm not kidding. That was God? He's in the hospital with hemorrhoids? You got to be kidding me. Knock that one off my list of people who are God. And I went through several experiences like that of gurus who didn't pass the test. So what is the test? And that's what you're asking. The test is three things. And I'll give an analogy. It's Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. The Guru is saying the same thing the Shastra says and the same thing previous saints said. Checks and balance. Just like the American government. Now people are worried maybe our new president will be an autocrat because there's supposed to be a system where the court balances what the executive branch can do, and there's the Constitution assigns other functions that are exclusive to the legislative branch. So you have Congress, you have the court, you have the executive, you have this checks and balance system. In a similar way, the Shastra has a checks and balance system called Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. So if I meet a guru, it's bona fide to question the guru if what he says agrees with Shastra, agrees with other sadhus say. And one test that I used was by following his instructions. Yeah, I am getting realization. I am getting detached. I am getting knowledge. I am getting detached. And at some point, he is a bona fide guru. I'm willing to commit, but you should never, never commit until you go through that process. Because Prabhupada said, if you come on a whim, you leave on a whim. And that's not very good. So there's a way of doing it. Now, one thing special about ISKCON is you get a guru with a warranty. Now, Prabhupada left us in 1977. So his successors initiate. Sometimes says in the Nectar of Devotion by Rupa Goswami that one should take initiation from a guru under the great acharyas. So we have the great acharya in this case is Prabhupada, There are other great acharyas, but our great acharya is Prabhupada. And then there are other gurus in succession under him. They may be great sadhus, but they're not in that category of the great acharya. That's special. Sometimes a guru, so history says this many times, will have some difficulty. And the guru may not be able to keep his vows and even step away. And when that happens, that's a nice thing about being in ISKCON. You get a guru with your warranty, double your karma back. Oh, that's a joke. Anyway, you should say double your money back if you're not satisfied. It's one department store. So when you approach, take a guru in ISKCON, even if there's some trouble, you get the whole ISKCON organization is there to back you up. And once a guru connects with the Parampara, you're permanently connected. Even if the person may later on, the material world's a dangerous place and things can happen. Does that answer your question, Sahadev?
Yes. I kind of stretched yes, in the sense that fortunately for me, I belong to this organization called ISKCON. But there may be others who are also trying to pursue the Supreme Lord and may not be connected to ISKCON, where we have a personality like Srila Prabhupada, and all those who are trying to connect us to the Parampara are connecting us to Srila Prabhupada. And therefore, if even, like you were saying, if the person who is connecting us at some point even falls, because this is a very slippery place, we are still safe. What about those who are also trying to pursue the same goal and probably may not be connected to a system that has a personality like that of Srila Prabhupada? Well, then what happens if in case the person who is even like bona fide, but at some point falls? What happens to such an individual?
Well, I mean, Krishna is always kind and takes care of us. Let me give an example. I have many Christian friends who are very pious, very advanced spiritually. And if they hear about Prabhupada, they appreciate it, but they're not directly connected with Prabhupada. That's not happening. You know, they're not connected to him. So, but that doesn't mean they're not making advancement. They're not making progress. I mean, and thank Krishna, I am connected to Prabhupada. I'm great. I am grateful for that every day. Sorry. I'm very grateful for that, but I don't downplay other people who have their own spiritual tradition. They may be more advanced than me. That's okay. I understand, I know, I've experienced Prabhupada's position, and I accept that. But I'm not degrading someone else who is different. And not Prabhupada did that. One time I was with Prabhupada, some yogi came to see him, Indian yogi, with his older gentleman, with his very young, beautiful, blonde disciple. And you could tell the yogi was pretty fallen. And he came to see Prabhupada in Denver. And Prabhupada gave a lecture about fallen yogis, but did it in such a way not to embarrass the man. When the man left, he touched Prabhupada's feet, understood his position, not very advanced. Other times, spiritual leaders would come see Prabhupada, and he would respect them totally, offer his respects, appreciate them. So Prabhupada had the ability. The face is a mirror of the mind. So he had the ability to look at someone's face and know where they're at. when I was humble with Prabhupada, he acted me one way. When I would see him in a very proud mood, oh boy, I wouldn't say a word, but he could see it in me. And oh boy, we could tell stories about that. There's not time now, but all I can say is, oh boy. So, I don't want to think that we have the exclusive key to spirituality for everybody. I have hitched I have hooked up with Prabhupada. Never have once regretted it. I won't regret it. I made the right choice. But that doesn't mean that I put down other people who have acted differently. I hope that answers your question.
Very much. Thank you so much. No monopoly to Krishna consciousness. Thank you so much. That's what I'm getting. No monopoly. We have His Grace Srimad Varaha-acharya's hand up. Prabhuji, please, you may kindly unmute. Hare Krishna.
Jai Dhanavad Pranam. Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisance. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. All glory to the assembled devotees. Well, it's not a question per se, but if you allow me, just my realization on the question that you just asked. I think what Prabhu had explained to us is the first system of a school. You go to a good school, you don't know the teachers there. But because it's been identified as a good school, so you're lucky to be in front of any of the teachers and you feel satisfied. So that is our system, like HCAM. Once it's a good school, reputable school, then you can feel safe under that system. So that is first example Prabhu has given. Now the second example that we also hear from, well, he also gave us the example of the Guru Sadhu Shastra. But then that is where the click is. In order to be able to use the yardstick of Guru Sadhu Shastra, then you have to know what the Shastra says. So that is where Prabhupada example comes in. Prabhupada said, if you want to buy gold, you have to know what gold is.
Exactly.
If you want to buy diamond, you have to know what diamond is. So if you go to somebody selling gold or diamond and you don't know what it is, so the fault is yours, so you can be cheated. And Prabhupada said the cheaters will be attracted by cheaters, and if you're also sincere, you'll be attracted by sincere. So an innocent person who is searching for spirituality has to also make research in order to know what is spirituality, what is the genuine process. Without that understanding, yes, we can easily be cheated. Anyone can easily be cheated. So most of us in ISKCON who have stayed and who have come, and because we were genuine in our search. And Srila Prabhupada said that any genuine seeker will eventually come to the point of Krishna consciousness. That is Krishna's mercy. That is why we have that verse, Bhamanda, the soul was hearing many universities say, at one point it comes across a spiritual master. So the mercy is there when Krishna says that we are making the effort. So it's not a blind search and the blind groping in the dark. No. So first is that the heart is genuinely seeking and is making efforts to understand what he's looking for. Like Prabhu did in his book. We saw that Bob Cohen, when it was Bob Cohen, perfect question, perfect answer. So you read in that book, you could see that this person was genuinely searching. It was asking questions that many of us would like to ask. And that book came up, perfect question, perfect answers. So that is the point, that we have to be genuine seeker if we really want a genuine guru. Otherwise, if we want to be cheated, we're going to be cheated very easily. And many people want to be cheated. Many people really want to be cheated. That's my contribution.
You said that very well. Thank you. I must join another meeting now at the BI. What a perfect way to end class, having Varaha-acharya and his comments. That concludes a perfect way to conclude the class. So I thank you very much. It's nice to be back in the Hare Krishna Africa Sangha. To me, it's a very special privilege. My only lament is it's the only continent other than Antarctica I've never been to yet. So one day I hope to make it there. My dear friend, BHAKTI-TIRTHA Swami, we spend a lot of time together, and he would just tell me how wonderful the outreach was in Africa. He would just tell me story after story. And one time we sat under a waterfall, just the two of us. We were in Brazil, actually, and sitting for an hour under a waterfall in a forest. We found a waterfall, so we just took off our shirts. It was tropical time, weather, sat there, and he was just telling me how wonderful his experiences have been. And so I lament I hadn't been there yet, but at least I get your association by Zoom, so I get some benefit, but not the full benefit of a visit, but something. So nice to see you all. Sahadev, thank you. Thank you. Some of you I know, and thank you for joining. And Gail and Gayatri I know from before, and my friend Gul, I'm so happy to see you. So happy to see you, and see you Madhavan again, and others who I've seen before. So thank you very much. Have a good day, and remember the one thing is from Rupa Goswami, and this is the essence: always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Everything will be fine. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for being with us, even though you have a tight schedule. And it is our privilege that somehow Sri Krishna and Sri Prabhupada arranged in such a way that many of his followers were very, very young when they saw him. And therefore, they can be here much longer to help educate us to understand Sri Prabhupada's mood. So we appreciate being here with us, being our revered uncle and great uncle to some of us. And we hope to have your association sometime soon again.
Yeah,
And
I want to show you one intimate picture.
Please do.
A moment, because it's right. Oh, can you give me screen share?
Oh, yes. Let me see. Okay, I am. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 minute.
Or make me co-host or something.
Yeah. Salika, Prabhu, am I the host? Or you are? Let me see. I think I am the host, so I can give you that right. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, you may do that now.
Okay. Aha. Now you have to guess who that is behind the flower. Prabhupada's holding a flower.
That looks to me like
him, Prabhu.
You don't see the picture?
I see the
Prabhu
picture.
himself,
Is that you?
Yes. Hey.
Oh, Shumavara Acharya got it.
Yeah. So see how the smile on Prabhupada's face?
Yeah.
It was coming from Kennedy Airport. So yeah, we were all very young, and
yes.
and pretty much all times you point out young, so I was showing my young body. That's all. That's the point there. I like that picture because I can use the picture, but most people don't know it's me because it's hidden behind the flowers. So that's why I like that one. But I'm just showing how young we are, and sometimes even foolish. But we're still here somehow. So that says something. I do have to run. I'm getting pinged to be at another meeting. Thank you all very much. I wish you all a blessed day in every regard. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhuji may not be here, but we humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra as we always do to express our appreciation to our revered speaker. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Vancha kalpa tarabhyascha kripa sindhya evacha bhavabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. All glories to His Grace Brahma-TIRTHA Prabhu ki jai.